From Norman, I'm Jenni Carlson here with Jason Kersey. Oklahoma has defeated Akron 41-3. Jason, I don't think anybody doubted what the outcome of this game would be, but obviously lots of questions. New quarterback, new offense, new offensive coordinator, and obviously a new weapon in the backfield with Joe Mixon. Let's start with Baker Mayfield because he set a record, most yardage thrown by a quarterback in a season debut, that being 388 yards, surpassing what Sam Bradford did back in 2007. Really pretty good night for Baker Mayfield.
It was, especially after the beginning, when the whole offense got off to a sluggish start. I think there were a lot of reasons for that. The chief among them was the offensive line. Really didn't play very well early. They got a little bit better as they got settled in, and as that got better, Baker Mayfield got better. And I think Baker Mayfield even probably dealt with some nerves at the beginning. He hasn't started a game at quarterback in a long time. It is a whole new offense for everybody, but yeah, Baker Mayfield really had a tremendous night. Not a whole lot bad to say about him.
Yeah, after those initial struggles, early drives getting stymied by penalties and some bad plays here and there, Sooners at one point had 5 consecutive drives. If you take out the kneel down to end the first half where they scored touchdowns, you really started to see them roll, play with the tempo, play with the rhythm that we thought that they would have. We thought that Lincoln Riley's air raid would have. Joe Mixon, I mentioned earlier, he makes his Sooner debut after a year's suspension because of an off-campus incident last year. Everybody knows those details. Seemed like he had the night that a lot of people were wanting to see too.
Yeah, it's the first time any OU fans have really gotten to see him play. He didn't even play in the spring game last year, so it was a huge debut for him, particularly after halftime. He comes out on the OU's first offensive play of the second half, catches a 76-yard touchdown pass. Really a dynamic weapon, a home run threat every time he has the ball in his hands, and it's obvious that OU is much better with him on the field, and I think people may have expected that when he committed. He was a 5-star guy, but he left no doubt tonight.
You didn't see much out of Mixon or Pirine in the run game. Combined, they only averaged for 3.8 yards a carry, which they need to be better. They want to be better. I think they will be better, but obviously had some struggles in the run game. But clearly, Lincoln Riley's offense, they stuck to it. They knew what they wanted to do. They didn't panic, and we saw the end result in what we got in that 41-3 decisive victory. Did you feel like Lincoln Riley's air raid was everything you were expecting to see, especially against an opponent that really wasn't that good?
Well, in the first quarter, no, but you think about it, they scored a lot of points in those middle quarters, and I think that's a sign of when this offense is operating at its highest efficiency. They can put up a lot of points, they can run a lot of plays, and they can do a lot of damage. And yeah, the running game obviously didn't go, I think, how a lot of people would have wanted. I think this is something that people feared about this offense, was that they weren't going to take advantage of the running backs they have. And after tonight, you can't really blame them for having those fears. But so much of that, I think, has to do with the offensive line. They have a lot of inexperience up there, and until that gets better, it's going to be really hard to be extremely effective on the ground.
Yeah, 75 total offensive plays for the Sooners. Obviously, they dialed it back in the fourth quarter, got Trevor Knight out there, got some reserves in, so you might not have seen them playing at that high tempo in the fourth quarter to really rack up the plays. We didn't talk at all about the defense, Jason, which, frankly, Akron wasn't much of a challenge. They weren't doing much that really challenged this defense, but you didn't see many breakdowns. You didn't see many big-time penalties or just, flat busts out of the defense. It seemed like, unlike the offense, which did have those struggles early with the penalties and some of the mistakes, it really did seem like a clean night for this defense.
Really, the only play that comes to mind is Zach Sanchez got beat deep on one play, and I think that's a little bit more forgivable because you know what Zach Sanchez can do, and that's not going to happen very often with him. On the other side, the PJ and Bonasaur and Jordan Thomas, for the most part, kept things locked down. So, yeah, I think overall a pretty positive night for the defense.
Lastly, this is obviously a big step up as we head into this next week, a game at Tennessee. Did this game set up the Sooner team to be ready to go to Knoxville to play a team that some people think could win their division in the SEC?
I think there's still a lot of concerns. That's a tough place to play, for Baker Mayfield to make his first road start at OU in a 100,000-seat stadium in the SEC against a really talented team. But one thing I do think, Lincoln Riley touched on this after the game, were a lot of guys making their first ever appearance in this, and so they had to kind of shake off some rust, shake off some nerves. And now that that's out of the way, maybe things will be a little bit better. But the dynamic definitely changes when you're on the road.
A big week to come, obviously. We'll have more as the week progresses. But here's what Sooner players and coaches had to say after the game tonight.
It's a good start to the year. It's really pleased overall. Maybe after the first quarter, once we got rolling a little bit offensively and found a rhythm, things picked up. Just some things to note. I thought Baker was excellent, and how he has handled the football and his decisions, those kind of things. I was pleased overall. Once we got rolling with it, the execution started to come. In the passing game, would have liked to have run it a little bit better, but they were in a kind of a front that we hadn't seen much of a year ago from them, and only a few times each game, and they played it primarily on us. So that stumped us a little bit, but no excuses. We needed to run it a little better than we did.
We knew stuff was there. You never want to get off to a start like that, but if it happens, you've got to do it. And that's something we talked about a lot throughout the week, and that you never know exactly what's going to happen, and everybody has all this time to dream up, coming out with a bang in that first game. And sometimes when you don't do it, you can lose confidence in what you're doing. Guys can start trying to do their own thing, and then that's when it really gets bad. And like I said, our guys hung in there. We're very confident in what they were doing. I loved their demeanor the whole time. And it wasn't anything magical, I said. They made a decision to trust and believe in what we were doing. And because they did that, we eventually were able to get rolling.
We'll look back on it, but it was the first 5 drives that we didn't have any points or any movement, really. First 2 were penalties. The next couple were just basic mistakes that we don't normally make. There was some blocking assignments and then just dropping the ball. It happens when first game you get the jitters. So it took a little bit to settle down, but Coach Riley talks about it. When we settled down, the floodgates open, and it happened late. I mean, we'd like it to happen earlier, but it happened.
I feel good. It's the first game, obviously, but like I said earlier, we only caught a glimpse of what this offense can do, and obviously our defense, they did a phenomenal job tonight, and we're hoping to keep that going.
What about Baker? His performance going into next week. How do you guys feel confident?
Yes, very.
Samaja, you said earlier this week that this is going to be the longest week ever for Joe. Was it? And I watched him before the game. It was kind of jittery, dancing a lot. Was he ready to get out there?
We all were. It was a long camp, and for him, I'm so proud of him. How far he's come and how he performed tonight. He did a phenomenal job tonight, and it can only go up from here.
I was just really proud of our guys early in the game because we were trying to find our footing on offense, but we kept our defense kept us in it the whole first quarter, first half, and really never gave them anything big. So I was that part of the game is always pleasing until our offense got their footing and then they started to roll. So that part was important to us and keeping the game where we can control it.
I just feel like the D-line doing the job that they did and opening the holes for us the way that they did, it was easy for us to flow as linebackers and just get to the ball. But it was them and just our coaches putting us in the right positions. It was just we got to keep doing what we're doing because we see our offense every day in practice. We know how good they can be. So it's like we never lost faith in what they were doing. It's just we just knew we had to keep Akron to 0 and our offense to take off eventually.